Hey y'all, welcome back to the internet. This is Avery, and today we're doing a tutorial passing through Photoshop, an online application called easygifmaker.com, and ending in Unity, where we'll have a completed game. It's a game with one scene locked to a camera, one character, one coin, and you'll see we'll add a bunch of different things with scripts that I will provide for you down in the description. So everything's ready to go. It's a little bit like it's like easy coding, easy scripting, plug and play as best we can in Unity. I hope you enjoy. It's going to be a big chunky tutorial, but I'll take these chunks that are all consolidated and I'll have timestamps in the bottom so that you can skip to a section that's relevant to you wherever you are in developing your game. So let me preview the game that I have and in Unity, and so you can kind of get a sense of where we're going with this. So here is the preview of the game window, and I've locked it to this standalone 1024 by 768, so it'll hold this ratio. It's pretty close to the 4:3, right? But you can see that it does a little distortion with the UI element. So this way it'll just stay consistent. I'll show you what happens if you kind of like see the UI element scales with that. So with this, it will just stay consistent. We don't have to worry about the UI element. So we'll go over in a second how I want you to set up Unity, but I just want to preview my game first. So I'm going to click here on this maximize on play so that you all can see this big. So clicking the preview button so that you can see the game in action. And if you ever want to get out of the preview, you have to hit this play button again. Not pause, but play again. Pause just pauses the game action, but you can see things are still highlighted here. So you have to hit out of it, and then nothing's highlighted, and you're ready to go. Cool. So let's go back. So the way that I've set up, there's a spawner script, and so one of the cows must have spawned kind of behind my character. So you can see I've already have 1 point. Incredible. But here we go. So I have an idle state for my character, my player, up and down, little baby like panting or whatever you have. And then I have the back and forth. So if the run walk cycle in the baby, that's activated by the left and right arrow keys. And you can see we flip the sprite when you press the left arrow key. So the default state is the right, and it just flips the sprite back and forth. And then I have a jump command that's up, and I set it so that I have a super duper high baby jump. You'll see. So notice things here: how high the jump is, and then that it switches to the jump state sprite. Da, right? Da, boom. Also notice how we go through. So we have a screen wrap that goes horizontal, left to right, and a screen wrap. That's what it's called. That goes. That's the vertical screen wrap. So cool, right? And then also things to notice: I have an animation for my background, right? I'll show you how to do that. And then I have an animation for my coin, which is the spinning coin that's establishing a little bit more of a three-dimensional space within this picture plane. And then I have a coin that can be activated. So I have a baby that jumps with a noise, so you can listen to that. And then also listen to the noise that the cow makes when it is touched by the baby. Da. There's a little delay because of my sound clip. The cow noise doesn't start right away. So that's something to think about when you're editing your sound clips. And then it spawns. Fine with me because at least it's within the camera, and that's how the script sets it up. All this happens. So I'm going to hit play to get out of the preview, and let's go. So what I provided for you in the description is the zipped folder that includes all of the information, all of the assets. It's essentially like taking this and zipping it into a folder that you can use. And you can definitely open it from that folder. So when you do, let's go into look in Unity Hub. So we'll open everything out of Unity Hub. So you can do add, right? And then you would say like this is the folder right here, this template fall 2020 new. So that you could just click on that folder and then do select folder, and it would create the project, and it should go well. But then you don't have all my assets, and you'd have to kind of like erase things and do that. So that it's good to have that, I think, for you down the line. But instead of doing it that way, let's just create a new project, and then we can suck the assets out of that folder as we need them, mainly just the scripts. That's really sort of the only assets that you need. So we'll create a new game, 2D, name it. So this is my tutorial demo, and then know where it's going to save. It'll create a folder for you. So it'll create a folder in right here. I have this, whatever, you don't even know where my directory is. That's what's going to happen. Give it a second to think. Hey, okay. So that took some time, but we're back. We're here. It might take some time for you all, but patience. So start this project early-ish. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so this is probably not what it's going to look like for you. It's probably going to look like this, and let's all get on the same page. So we're going to go to right here, the far right, upper right. Let's start it by going. I see I've saved mine. You all can do that too. But let's start with this 2, 3. Do you see that? And so everything is pretty good. I want to slide this hierarchy. So I'll click here in this tab. I want to put it all over here. And then still looking good. I'm happy with this. Let me just move this over here. I don't want to see these folders like this. I want to see it kind of really small. So let's take the slider bar and zippy doo dah to the left. And then you are going to, what we don't have here, but what I do have in my preview, or my layout that you all, that we're creating right now, is the animation window. So we go to Window, Animation, Animation. It's a free floating tab, so we want to give that a home. So grab it and let's put it right. Did it go in there? No, let's get out of the way first. We want to go right here next to Game. Boop, we'll put it right there. Cool. So then save this jam. So go to click there, and then go to Save Layout. It's clipping a little bit on the screen, but you see what I'm saying. And then save the layout, and it'll look just like this one. You can see I moved some stuff around. But this is it. Congratulations. Oh, save this. Sorry. Go back. When you're on yours, make sure you want to set this to standalone 1024 by 768, and make sure you have this be highlighted maximize on play, just so you can see it big. And actually, it helps you not get confused about clicking on in and out of this when you want to stop doing the preview. So all of this looks good. Standalone, right? Maximize on play. Cool. What we need to do now, my friends, let's create all of our folders. So in Assets, we click it here, and then you can see now we're inside of the folder here. Let's add a bunch of folders. So a folder that is animations, a folder that is sprites. Let's just call it graphics, actually. I'm going to look at my other, see what I have. So animations, graphics, prefabs, scenes, scripts, and sounds. Animation, graphics. Scenes, oh, got that, sorry. Scripts. Sounds. Prefabs. Hey yo. Did we catch them all? Let's see. That's it. Cool. So now when you create these here, it's actually those folders are being created in your folder directory on your computer too. So that's wonderful how Unity is communicating with everything on your computer. So now let's add an asset here, a sprite, that will act as our floor. So you can create your own, but you can also just create like a blank sprite that you can stretch out and use as your floor. So open this, create new. We want to create a sprite square. We'll call this floor. Click there, we have it, right? Graphics, it's a sprite. Point no filter is great. We can just drag it right in there. So you can see here in our preview, we have a sprite. And we can come over here in our inspector. You can change the color, right? Oh, wait, that's great. I'll actually put it a little brighter. Right there. Oof, I love that. Okay, and then you're like, oh, that's not much of a floor. Let's make it bigger. So there are a couple different ways you can, the tools to manipulate within the scene view right here. So let's grab the scale tool and just scale it out like that so that it fills up. This is our camera. And then we can grab right here the move tool and move it. Looks like you have to grab these things. There you go. right? You can make these adjustments here too, if you want to make the position like that. So if you want it to be right in the middle, 0. And then you can see, all right, we would definitely want our scale to just be 15, just to be clean, right? And then negative 4.7. Cool. So now we have that floor. And what we need to do to the floor is to essentially something for the player to react, to respond to fall on. So we're going to go add component, box, collider, 2D. And then if you hit here, you can edit the dimensions of the collider. So we can click on that. You can see by default it just occupies the rectangular space of the sprite that we have. That's totally cool, and it will do this by default if you bring in your own image. So if you were to like have a PNG, drag your PNG into the graphics folder and then drag it into the scene, sweet. Then you would add a box collider 2D to that. So this is the toggle on the editing or not editing. That's great. So we can leave that as it is. We are going to add some other things to this right now. So we're going to turn this into the ground layer. So in the script, it needs to have the name ground as the layer so that it works with this ground check thing that is part of the script that makes it a little bit more accurate when the player collides with it using the physics in the Unity engine. So round. So you click them right here, hit enter. Floor. Okay. So we come. So after you name it, you have to actually make sure you select it. So ground. So floor, ground. You could also, if it's easier, you could just rename this to ground. So ground is ground. Cool. Ground has the tag ground. That's exactly what we want. Awesome. And then the last thing I'll add is this is if you want to have the screen wrap go, you know, if you go vertical, it comes back to the bottom, the top edge to the bottom edge. So this one is the platform effector 2D. And this, you just have to make sure your box collider here is used by effector, okay? And it's actually already set up to this 180 so that essentially like this is the force field that will have the character land on it, but then you can come from inside the force field, you know, I don't know if you've seen Rogue One, and come through it that way. So that's great. All of this is set up. So we have a box collider 2D that's used by this effector. This is the platform effector 2D. And I think that's it. We'll leave it as is for right now. So what do we want to do? We want to save. So I just did Control-Command-S to save our game because it would suck if we lost it. Now let's bring our no player. Come on in, player, and make it move. So this is where you, you have your assets. And here's a reminder. So you created your assets in Photoshop, right? Here's my run cycle. Cool. Got 6 frames, looking good. I said, you can set the frame rate, but that doesn't matter because we're going to set the frame rate actually again in Unity to make this work. So I have my baby idle. You can see it's just 2 frames. And then I have my baby jump. And all of these are 64 by 64. So I can double check that by image size, 64 by 64. And check it out, nearest neighbor. Okay, so if you pull in something from the internet that's bigger than 64 by 64 and you scale it down, make sure you scale down using nearest neighbor. Okay. So this one's easy, right? We would just save as a PNG. Can you see down there? Right? Just save as a PNG. Make sure you save it to where you need it to be. And these, any of the GIFs, the animated GIFs, you have to save as a GIF. So File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. Make sure nearest neighbor is selected. Make sure all of this is right. So 64 by 64, 100, and then forever. Turn the lossy down to 0. We don't need, these are going to be such small files anyway. And then if you want to click right here, if you want to like get a closer look, yeah, it's going to be beautiful. So save that out and you just know where you save it. So same for this one, right? Any of these GIFs. And then also I have it for my cow too. So as a reminder, the way that we turn those into the sprite sheets is using, I'm a little out of focus, but who cares? So easygif.com, and then you want to do this. If you land here, you go to split, and then GIF to Sprite sheet, and then you browse, and some more minor. No, they're not. They're in Project 4. So like this is my baby. Let's just do baby. Okay, and then upload, and you can see it's previewing the GIF. Okay, it's giving me that ad. Cool. And then for this one, you can just do stack horizontally, and then set this to 64 by 64. So it will keep that grid that you already established. Man, it's not capturing my focus. So that you don't have to worry about things getting kind of like shifted when you get into Unity. You want your character actually to be centered on its grid on all of those 64 by 64 pixel kind of canvases, artboards. And then you convert to Sprite sheet. Definitely make sure it's PNG, but it will be there by default. So there's your Sprite sheet, and then you save to your computer. And then, so it'll save as this weird file name. So just make sure you change the file name so it doesn't, because it will do this for all of them. So you'll have 3 different Sprite sheets that all have the same name, and it's just super confusing. Cool. So that is done. And then back in Unity, now in our graphics tab, we can start to upload those Sprite sheets. So what I'm going to do, and this is what you're going to do for the scripts, but what I'm going to do for these characters is just import new assets from the ones that are already existing. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and by that I mean the ones that exist in the template that I provided for you. And I can go to this template, assets, graphics, and I have idle, I have jump, I have run, and I'll come back to these later. Okay, so here they are. These are the Sprite sheets, but they are, right now you can see when I click on each one of these, their mode is single, and we need to change that. So let's start with this baby run. So it needs to be multiple, because it's multiple sprites in this Sprite sheet. If we want to change the filter mode to point, and that will maintain our beautiful pixel array, as opposed to trying to like blur it and kind of do some math to it that we don't want, right? Some interpolation. So hit apply, and that'll save this point, and it'll save this multiple. And now we're ready to bounce over into the Sprite editor. So here we are in the Sprite editor, and what's important to do? We want to slice this thing up so that Unity can recognize these as individual frames for animation. So we're going to do by cell, 64 by 64 is pre-populated, at least for me. I don't know what it will be for you. Pivot center is fine, I don't care. And then you can hit slice. Boop. Boom, 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 boom. You see it? You see it. Then we can hit apply right here. Boop. And now we can go through each one of these and rename them if you want. I'm not going to go through that process, but if it's helpful for you all just to be like, all right, that is baby run 1. Right now it has it as 0. That's fine for you. Cool. I might hit apply again. I don't know. I think that's just to be safe if you have to rename everything. So now we can click, and where it was just 1 kind of preview, so like, oh, that's 1 anyway. But see how that's just 1 right there on baby idle, but it should be 2. Now we can see baby run. It has multiples. So let's go through that same process with baby idle. It needs to be multiple. It needs to be point filter, and then apply. Cool. Now we can go to the Sprite editor. So cute. Slice. Yep. Slice it. Apply. We're ready to go. Okay. So let's bring in. Now we're going to make the animations. Or bring in essentially make the character and set up this like the animation situation. You'll see. Okay. So let's do baby run. Grab all of these frames, and when I drag them into my scene right here, it will automatically recognize that they're multiple sprites and create an animation for them. So check this out. Bring it in, and then new animation, but I want to make sure that I set it to where I want to say it. So right now in which folder? I don't want it to be in the graphics folder. I want it to be in the animations folder that I made. And I'm going to call this one player, and this is important for the script, is you name this right. Player, capital P player, and then run. Okay? Underscore and then lowercase run. So capital P player, underscore lowercase run. Save. So now we have that, and you know, if you don't like the scale of this, you could come here to the scale tool, and if you hold shift, nope. You would think if you hold shift, but nope. Okay, we can just do this, 5, 5, boom. I'm happy with that scale. And we'll do that to all of them. So you can see now, if you come here, click on this animation tab, and I hit play, I can preview my animation. We want to potentially have samples is sort of like the frame rate. So if I make it 6, half as fast. Oops. Let's see, it's a little bit slower. If I change the samples to 10, right? A little bit faster. Yeah, you get it. In case you don't see this, I think it's... Yes. If you don't see the samples for some reason, if you click on this little stack of dots right here, not this one here, but the one down here, and go to show sample rate, you'll be able to see it, okay? And then you can change the samples as you wish. So I'm happy with that at 10 samples. And let's add and then I'm going to change this right here. This baby run, change the name, rename to player. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and do this right now, y'all. This is also important. Change the tag to player. Okay, so make sure your player is selected. Right, this is my baby. The first sprite, which will become my default sprite, is player. The tag is player. We're going to add some more elements in a second, but not quite yet. All right, what's next? Let's do the baby idle animation. We'll bring that in. I'm just going to bring it in as it is, and then again, assets, animations, baby, player underscore idle. Again, this is important. The uppercase player underscore lowercase idle. Save that, and then we're going to change the scale. We actually have to, but I'm doing it. Okay, and then let's bring in the jump, which is, remember, just one sprite. But let's make sure we change it to point, and single is fine, and apply. Okay, so that's important, this point, no filter. So we'll grab our sprite, bring it in, change it to 5 by 5, and there's no animation, right, because it's just one thing, so it won't like create an animation for you. But when you have that sprite selected, if you hit create, and then now we can make an animation. So this is player underscore jump. Okay, so I can actually delete these now. I don't need them. I just needed the animator information that they provided, which reminds me, now we need to bring up the animator. So window, animation, animator. If it does that for you, great, because that's exactly what we want. Let's click on player, and you can see we have the player run as the default animation, and we need to bring in the other animations that we created. So not these, actually, but these. If you can see the difference in what those look like. So these are like I can't remember what they're called. But these are the animations that we need to bring in here. So we have player run, we need to drag in player idle, and we need to drag in player jump. Now we need to set the default to player idle, right? Because that's what's going to happen by default, unless keys are pressing, and then it'll transition to player run or player jump. So if you have that selected, right click it, and then set as default state. This is great, and we're going to control command or command save. So now we're saved again. Let's go back to our scene tab, and everything's looking good so far. So we need to add a couple more things to this player right here to make it work. So remember, we did the tag as player. Now we also need to add right here component a box collider. You could also do, I'll say this right now, a circle collider depending on what your character looks like. So circle is a circle, right? A box collider is a box. For my character, it's kind of like boxy, so I'll do a box collider 2D. Dope. Where'd it go? Right here. So this is, you can see these little arrows, right, to get there. So I want to affect this. Make it a little bit smaller. Right. It will, right when I jump, it'll be kind of like that, but I'm kind of thinking about the difference between them. And I kind of want it to be like inside the character. if that makes sense. We'll talk about, I'm going to adjust this later, but we'll talk about it in a second. And then I need to add a rigid body, 2D. It's right here that like essentially applies the physics of the Unity engine to this character. And this is all good for right now, so I can leave that in. And let me just make sure. Okay. And then this is a little strange, but you can do it because we're going to do it together. So I don't know if you all noticed how you can kind of like navigate this by, if you have a, your scroll wheel mouse, you can just click the middle scroll button, the little scroll wheel, and then move it around like you can do in 3D programs too. So the player, we're going to add an empty to it. So if you right click on player, create empty, and this is going to be our ground check. So we rename this to ground. How's it? I'm going to double check how this is in the other game. 1 second. Ground check. Player. Okay, both capitalized. I'm not sure if it matters, but it might. Ground check. So we'll rename this to ground check. And then this one we want to have, I want it to be visible. So if you all can see in my other game, this ground check, if I click the player, it's there. It's this little gizmo here, this little UI element. And that's essentially, if I'm understanding this correctly from the tutorial that I watched to create this, it's creating this ray that interacts with the ground. Remember when we added the ground layer to the R4? So it's just so that they understand each other better. I don't know. It's something to do with relationships. So here we go. We just want to like see this thing. So I think what I need to do, wait, ground check, click here because we wanted to give it an icon. So make sure you have your player selected, right? Ground check, select that. Give it a little gem. I mean, I chose red, but maybe let's do this light blue this time, which is great because we want to see it. We see that it is not where we want it to be. So with ground check still selected, right? We can move it down, and we want it to be kind of below the character just a little bit. The main thing is it's below the box collider box, that green box. We'll look at that again in a second. If this ends up being like too big for y'all, that's totally fine. We can go to gizmos right here, and you can see that 3D icons, which is this, will shrink with this slider. Okay, cool. So we can click out of that. I will say right now, you don't have to do this, but right now my camera size is 5, so that's why I scaled up my character by 5. It's all could be fine, but if I didn't want to scale up my character, I can make the camera much smaller, come back to the character, I could resize everything, but honestly, we're not going to do that, right? Let's just stay at 5. No one's going to go back at this point, right? No one. Okay, so now we have the ground check, and let's just double check on the character. I'm going to come to this box collider 2D, click there, and right, it looks like, yes, our ground check is below it, but I'm going to even move that up a little bit. I think that'll be fine, but we'll see. If it doesn't jump, we'll know why. Okay, so it'll come out of the edit mode. What else do we need to do? Now we add the scripts. So let's import an asset. So this is great. So if you've come this far with me, we've been extracting cool things. I extracted my player assets from the folder, but now this is what you're going to do as well. You're going to come here in scripts and import new asset, and come to assets, and then scripts. Oh shit. Oh right, I gotta come to downloads. There it is. Template new. Okay, assets, scripts, and then these are the scripts we want. So we want the player controller for sure, and screen wrap, because that will, you'll see, wrap the player around the screen. And that's it. You can do all of them if you want for right now. Let's just do all of them right now. Bring all those gems in here because we're going to use them. You don't have to use all of these if you want. If you don't use it, you'll just delete it. Let's control save. So now we have our player, and we want to add these scripts to it. So I think we could just, if you want, drop them in there, right? With scripts here, just drop them in there. Oh, that's freaking easy. Here you can see now the way that I set this up in the script using a couple different tutorials. We can add a jump sound just right here. We can add this ground check. which will need to be our ground check. Oh, our ground check. So let me just, back up just a second. So we added our script. The script is right here, that's the player controller. The jump sound is part of the script, as is the ground check. And then as are these public variables, 1.5 for the run speed and 3, those are the default numerals or settings for those strings. But you can change that by, or integers, not strings. You can change that by making it more. So like your jump could be higher or lower. You'll see. So these are numbers that you can mess with right here. And then the ground check is not something you should mess with. It's just something you should set. So right here, ground check, boom, that's done. Now let's preview this thing and just see if it all works. So we have a screen wrap, we have our player controller. That's it. I think we have everything. Let's do it. So here it is, preview to play. Yep. Yep, see how it's kind of slow? Oh, and there's our sweet little jump. Okay, so also changing if you come back to the camera, the scale does make a difference in terms of like how the settings essentially for this. So it's 5, but you might need to set these higher. This doesn't, you guys don't care about this, but just so you know about it. All right, folks. So what are a couple things we need to do? I wanted to check this rigid body. Yes, okay. So did you notice this? Let me click again. Watch the player. See how it kind of like goes through the ground? We don't want that. Or maybe you do. If you don't want that, click on the player, come here to this rigid body 2D, and then collision detection, change that to continuous. Okay? So let's click and see. Crunch. Beautiful, right? Solids are solid. Control, Command, S, so save, or file, save. Important. Who knows what'll crash. Oh, and let's check the screen wrap. So good. And now I just want to show you with this player controller how you can make things totally different. So run speed, it seemed really slow. What if we change it to 8? And jump height, what if we change that to 12? Let's see, okay? So these are some of the things that you can mess with and change the kind of like the character of your. So good. Watch this. Okay, and if you want to like get that jump a little bit higher, let's go to 17. Oh no, 27 is too much. So 17 for the jump height, and now let's see if we can activate that vertical screen wrap. Nice. So that's because we added that platform effector 2D onto right here, onto the ground, this platform effector 2D, and that did this, remember? Right, our force field, one-way force field. Okay, so now we have a player that moves back and forth, that has a box collider, that has rigid body 2D physics applied to it, that interacts with the ground, has a screen wrap. Cool. Now let's add our coin. So the coin is the thing that revolves this way, right? It will be, oh yeah, let me do this real quick. So go to giphy.com to find loops if you want an animation, you know? Certainly for your backgrounds, this could be a great way to like get this effect, the collage effect as you build up your game, build up the layers to it. So I looked up cloud loop. I got this, which turns out it was food porn. WTF GIF by Felix Tomas Konczakowski. And you can right click, save the image, right? Here it is right here. Cool, I already have it saved. And then let me just show you this modification that I did to it. So file, open, cloud loop, open. Oh wait, open. Wait, hold on. I gotta download it real quick, y'all, because it was more frames than that. Save image as. It'll save it. Oh, can you see that? You can see that there. Oh yeah. Giphy, right? Cloud long. So it saved it as a GIF. I can open this up in Photoshop. Cloud long. And look how many frames there are. So 20, 30 frames. I don't want that. 10 frames sounds good to me. So I will remove every other. And let me make myself disappear. Not every, it's sort of like every third. No, you'll see. I'll just show you. Okay. So I can do this. The first one I don't want, nor the second. And then I'm going to hold Control or Command. I don't want those two. 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 You see what I'm doing, right? If you do this strategically, you can remove frames and also, and then come down here and delete. Yes, I want to delete those frames. So you have the same thing, but just a little bit different. And less frames, less information, less burden on the computer in the world. Okay? And you save that as a GIF, and then you take it over to onlinegifmaker.com and easygif.com and do the whole situation. Oh, fun. Holiday sweaters. Okay. So back in our slowly developing thing, let's import asset. I'm going to import. Remember, this is from the template, so I'm just importing from the things that I already have, but you'll find your own graphics for this, remember. So I have the cloud loop sprite sheet. So I already went through the process of, you'll remember the process, right? We did it for the baby. And I will also do the cow sprite right now too, okay? So I'll import those in. So now, oh right, no, we have to go through this process. It is a sprite sheet, but we need to change it to multiple. We need to change it to point. We're gonna apply sprite editor. So cool. This is where it's really helpful because all the pixels are on each other. I mean, maybe it could do this automatically, but I'm not sure that it could. And then by grid cell size. So this one, I didn't do 640 by 640 because this is my background. I wanted more pixels. You could have a 64 by 64 by 64. You could have 64 by 64 and just scale it up. And at point, it would like maintain the integrity of each one of those kind of like blocks of color, which now occupy more than one pixel. But this one I did 40 by 40. So if you do that, if you make a bigger background, just acknowledge that when you're slicing it. So here they are. And then I'll apply. I'm fine with that for right now. I'll click out of the editor. Only textures with width height being multiple for compressed. Okay, so that's good to know. If you want to be divisible or like more easily compressed, make sure it is maybe a multiple of 4. And 480, that doesn't make sense to me. Oh, maybe because it's 10 anyway. In the sprite sheet has the full dimensions. Don't worry about it. Okay. So that's the background. We're going to do the same thing with the cow sprite. So, oops, click here. It needs to be multiple. It needs to be point. We can apply those. And then we're going to the sprite editor. This one is 64 by 64. Cool, did that for me. Thanks, friend. We will apply. I'm happy with that. And then now we can take these cows, drag them on in here. Same thing, right? We're going to create an animation. So assets. Yep, animation. We can just call this cow. Cow spin. Spin. This one doesn't matter in terms of the naming of it. So now we have that animation. I'm going to check while everything's selected here, I'm going to up the scale here to 5 by 5. So it's consistent sizing wise. And then we can come here and just preview our animation a little bit faster than I want. So I'm going to actually change this to 6. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now the things we add to the cow in terms of, right in this area. So we're going to add not a rigid body, a box collider, or let's call it a circle collider this time, because the cow is more of a circle. Let's scale that in, scale that down, come up here. I'm happy with that. Okay. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, actually, in case, because it could land down here in the floor, and I want my baby to be able to activate it when it touches it. Okay. So that means if it like lands down here, it will still be able to, the box colliders will interact. This box collider is going to be a trigger. Trigger. That wasn't a trigger warning joke. Okay, whatever. So that's good. I think that's it. All right. That's it for that. So now let's go to, oh, this is just a quick, because I need to add sounds to all this stuff, but let me make myself disappear. You might get warnings right down here because there's no jump assigned. Remember, if there were areas in here we could assign jumps. If that's the case, I wouldn't worry about it too much, unless it makes it not play. If for some reason it's not playing because of that, you're gonna have to add a sound in. But you all saw that in mine, so I can play right now. Yeah, it was fine, even though I don't have sounds applied to it. Okay, got it. Okay, now we're gonna add scripts to our cow. I'm gonna change this to rename cow. So let's go to our scripts, and then these are the scripts that we have this option. So all of you will set this coin script to your cow, your coin, whatever it is. So that's mandatory. And then the audio clip, I need to add those sound assets, so I can't quite do this yet. I'll do that in just a second. And then the coin spawner script, you add to, let me double check. Yes, it's on the player. So I'm going to show you right now. Okay. So if you just want coins, your cow to be a coin, that's totally cool. So it should just work right now. It didn't work. Why didn't it work? Cow. This one actually might need a coin sound. So let's do that really quickly and see if that is what makes it work, okay? Because it definitely is trigger. Yeah, all that's right. So here we go with sounds. We're going to import an asset. So this is where I tell you about creating your own sounds. So use your phone, right? Create a little boop, 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 boop for the sound. Make sure you try and make your sound as soon as you press play, or make it before you press play even, because if you have that little gap of no sound, if you don't want to have to edit your audio, which is totally possible, you can edit it even I think within some of the apps on the phone. Make sure the sound starts right away. So, oh, Beckett's crying. I'm gonna have to take a pause in a second. We've come to assets. You're gonna do this differently because you're gonna find it. But I'm gonna pull in the assets that I have already. The baby jump and the moo noise, and put those in my sound folder. Sorry, import those to my sound folder. So now, if I add here, if we just click right here in this little target circle, sweet. I want my coin sound to be my noise. Double click. And then let's just add the baby sounds right now when we can too. So it's going to be in the player controller. So the jump sound is the baby sound. Does that make sense? It's pretty easy. You just need to have your sounds in your sound folder right here. So then I'll do hit save. And now the cow should disappear upon contact. Okay. So that's it. Maybe that's your game. Maybe that's all you want to do. I mean, or maybe you want to add another cow. If you're going to do that, there are a couple things you can do. Actually, what you're going to do is this. This is exactly what you're going to do. So you're going to take your cow right here that already has all the script information and just drag it into prefabs. And what that does is now, instead of when you drag your cow sprite on here and you have to set up the animation and set up the scripts, when you have this as a prefab right here, cow, see what happens? So it turned into a cow. Now I can just drag from my prefab and drop in, you seeing this? Y'all seeing this? A bunch of cows. So maybe this is how you want to set up your scene. Right? Da. Da. Cool. So the physics is a little weird, and I think that's mainly because of the camera scale set to 5. So I would suggest, if you all are interested, to set the camera scale to 1, and it would look a little bit more like my game over here. So main camera, see the scale is set to 1. Watch it, just if you watch the preview, it has a little snappier, right? There are other settings that you can make, but that's just so you know. You don't have to scale everything down if you've already gotten to this point, but whatever, you totally, it's within possibility, you can do that. And then, actually, once you have a bunch of these, you can make one of these freaking bigger. What? Will it just disappear immediately? Let's see. Collided with it, so it disappeared. So let me just move it. Okay, cool. So that is one way to have a bunch of cows on your scene. Another way, I'm getting a text. Okay, so you have all of this set up, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. You're done with your game. Cool. But if you want to use the coin spawner script that is provided in these scripts right here, let me show you how to do that. So let's get rid of all these prefabs. Delete them. Delete. So we actually want no cow here when we start. And we're going to hop in our player. And then we're going to add the coin spawner to our player. So let's just do, here, I'll show you the other way you add a script. So add component, and then just type in coin, right? Spawner is right there. So now here is here. We want the coin object, we want it to be the prefab cow. So we go to assets right here, and there it is. There's cow. So that cow is our prefab cow, which is right in here. Remember? Shoot, where did I lost my. Oh, it happened. Okay, so cow. If it's there, you want to just click on assets, and it will show up. So it's that prefab cow, and then I'm going to show you what happens. There it is, right? So that's the coin spawner script. It should work just like that. That it'll just spawn them anywhere in the camera. Oh my god! Thank you, internet, for helping us do this. Right? Let me save. This is where I'll know if you're following the tutorial. Let's change the name of our sample scene. So wait, can I do that? I can't do that. Wait, scenes. Insert here. Rename. And then reload. Okay. If you send me a sample scene, I'll know that you didn't see this tutorial. Okay. So you changed your sample scene. I think that's just important for sharing these things so that we don't know if this sample scene is our name when we package these and send them off to me. And hopefully it just works out beautifully. Now I want to add that UI element, remember, that exists in this one. So all of these things, this down here, right? And I'll just show you, it's really weird. I don't know why it does this, but this is how it adds a UI element. I'm sorry. We're just gonna deal with it, okay? So I don't know why. Someone could on the internet could figure or could tell you why, but I certainly don't know why. That it just doesn't like fit into the screen. But it is. This is why you want to have this game tab here so that you can see where it is in the preview, even though it looks so weird in the screen tab. So we're gonna add a canvas, a text, and then the image that you add to the text would be this little icon down here if you choose to do that. So let's go through that process. So here we're going to right click and then UI element text, and that will create the canvas you'll see. Okay, so it creates the canvas, creates the text, and now if you look down here in the game, you can see the text right there. So weird here, there it is. It'll get you confused. So don't worry about that. So now you can type in. Can you type in score here? I think you just have to type in 0. Let me see if I do score 0. No. Let's just do 0. Just do 0, y'all. And then if you want to change the font, oh, you have to add a font, it looks like. That's not what we're going to do. But you can change the style. You can make it bold. You can make it bigger. If it gets so big that it zooms out of this text box, this is where it's good to know that you can scale out. So then you can grab here and make the text box much bigger and scale this thing up even more. Right? So you understand it gets too big and it like leaves the text box. We can change the size, sorry, color. Cool. I don't, this is where I just don't know if we can add text to here, but let's not. Okay. And then if you want to change the position, you click here, but you have to hold down Shift, and then you could move it. Wait. No, wait. You hold on Control? No. You hold on Alt? Yes. All right, you hold on Alt. And then that is what moves it to these different positions. Looks like Alt also set position. Okay, so maybe it might say something different if you're on a Mac, but at least on a PC, if you hold down Alt, it will move the position of your UI element. So maybe I'll just put it right there for kicks. I don't know what this does. What's this do? Stretches the cuss out. No, that's fine. Okay. So now we have that. Oh, and I'll just show you if you want to have an image to that. So you have to right click on the text, add an image, UI element, image, and then for the image, source image none sprite. So let's select a sprite. We'll add the baby. Oh, it does weird things to it. It doesn't like that, does it? Yeah, so you can just mess with that. I don't know what's happening with that. I guess you'd have to change the scale. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. Let's make both of these smaller. Wait. You get it. Whatever, that's cool. And then you can do the position up here. Cool. Negative 126. Whatever. And then that's good. So that was adding an image to it. And then we can add the script text. Make this small. Add component. Coin count. Now watch this, friends. So good. Okay, Control Command Save. So that's it. So there are a lot of things to mess with. So say for example, if I want to if I'm all zoomed out, I don't want to zoom back in, right? Oh, let's just test this out. I think we have to. So if I do text score, I don't think this is going to work, but let's try it. No, it's not. We're not going to see it. Oh, it just turns it into. Oh, you see. Y'all will have to make adjustments. Things will get weird. Yep, I think we're about to see what's going to happen here. It's going to just turn that. Yep. Which is totally fine, right? We can deal with that. Y'all know you could just add another text element, right? You might have to rename it from text because I think it calls out text. But that's it. Okay, cool. So save. So here we are. Remember, our camera view is all the way over in here. So instead of having to scroll all the way back in, you can just double click player and it'll zoom to the player, which we know is within the camera. Brilliant. So what all needs to happen? I just want to go over this really quickly. So things that you can modify. In the player's controller new script, it's new because I added these things. So you can change the sound the player makes when it jumps. You can change the run speed and the jump height. Ground check needs to stay the same. I want to show you what can go wrong. If the ground check is above this, if it's like that, things will be wrong. Okay, it won't work. So you need to make sure your ground check is below the box collider area. And I feel like that, I feel like that is below, right? I think the ground check is essentially like right there. So you'll have to mess with that some maybe. You know, you can change, remember the prefab, you can come in here and change elements to the prefab. If you're using the prefab is useful for the coin spawner, but also just like dragging a prefab in, right? So prefabs are great once you figured out what your coin element does. And then the prefab, what that has the coin script on it, you can change the sound that makes, and setting scale. All this stuff is cool, right? You can change the size of the collider right here. You're gonna want to like bring it in there to like really see what the collider, right? So all of that will affect all the prefabs, probably, maybe while they're in there. I don't know. And that's it. And then you're going to save, and there will be future tutorials about adding an end screen and exporting it to me. But this is how you create your game from the ground up. Isn't that awesome? So whatever, time check, probably 30-ish, 40 minutes. But you all can handle it. And remember that look in the description below, or whatever, it's too late now to end the tutorial. But we did it. We made it through the end. I'm really excited for you all. You made this sweet, dope game. That's going to be so fun to play, or so thought-provoking.